Hey guys, I'm back to throw down some. This time talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Snes, which the site's got a bit of that I thought was good. Bearing in mind I was 10, I still think it's kind of good now. Bear in mind I'm 27. Questionable mental capacity for me here, but I'm pretty sure it still holds up as a decent side scrolling beat 'em up. It accomplishes the most vile sin that a side scrolling beat 'em up can by only being single player, which is kind of a bummer. Since it's based on the Power Rangers license, it comes with the natural Power Rangers issue. I mean, what the hell was with the sort of racial stereotyping of them? You had an Asian woman as the Yellow Ranger, a African American male as a Black Ranger, and then the Pink Ranger for just a white girl. I mean, what the hell was that? Some strange shit going on. In the footage here you'll see the Red Ranger. Was it Jason? Is this happening? I think it is. He's got this flying kick, which is probably the most useful move in the game. And all the Rangers are largely the same. They've got, punching attacks, punching combos, and a jumping kick of some sort. But his one, we'll call him the Red Ranger in case his name isn't Jason, and it pisses someone off. His flying kick's actually the only one that's of any use whatsoever, because it's got a really long sort of hitbox, and you're guaranteed to hit your targets. With like Billy and the Black Ranger and the Green Ranger and whatever, it's really difficult to hit the flying attacks. As you can see, it's just absolutely demolishing everything by part of using that attack. One of the things I think is awesome is the music, which you can hear chugging away there. Fantastic 16-bit tunage, just what you need for this kind of game. It's a weird thing about these kind of games, maybe just a lot of 16-bit games, but Final Fight, Streets of Rage, games of that nature, the side-scrollers, Golden Axe as well, which done amazing soundtracks. And even if you're not that impressed by this game, which in all likelihood you're not, you can take away the quality music from it, which is cool. So yeah, the second part of the stage you're about to see, after these putties are dismissed. By the way, a little Power Ranger education, those are called putties. I don't quite remember why. Are they made of putty? I don't know. But here's the thing that just made you shit your pants when you were a kid. Not the villain. Now you think, oh cool, it's got villains. But look at this. He's morphing. It's morphing time. Look at that. The transformation is complete. Already started to sort of wet yourself. When you're a Power Ranger, I don't get what the fuck's going on. You get a weapon, the sword in his case. The other characters have got, appropriate weapons at the end of the series. But you don't actually seem to do any more damage. The music plays, you're all dressed up and twice as ripped for some reason. And you get these special moves, which has just been completely wasted. But yeah, I swear it does no extra damage. But then the tunage. And all of a sudden none of that matters. So you'll also note that you're stuck on one plane there. You can't move up and down, it's just left to right. The game sort of difficulty picks up as it goes along. It's not a hard game. In fact, I'd say it's got an enjoyable difficulty. Starts off really easy, as it probably should. And then it starts to, I guess, overwhelm you with enemies and obstacles. I'm trying to remember what comes next. The park bench. Look at that. Huh? Tell me you're not impressed. So those flying bastards are an absolute pain in the ass. But the good news is, as you can see, the mines they drop can actually kill the enemies, which I love. More bench throwing. The weird thing about the Power Rangers is it's supposed to be saving the Earth, but trashing public property, which seems a little strange. And you always think as well with these things, at some point, I know, these guys are the bad guys, okay, but if there's 8 million of the bad guys on Earth and like 50 of the good guys, probably fairer just to let the bad guys win, isn't it, really? When we're killing hundreds and hundreds of putties here, each one with a family, children, and what's it all for? A couple of teenagers? To be honest. And the putties aren't stabbing each other, you'll know, they're just stabbing the Power Ranger. So in theory, if there weren't any Power Rangers, there'd be no violence. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading a little too much into the backstory, the rich rich and storied history of Power Rangers, but I'm pretty sure this is the way it should go. You can bust the car, which is awesome. Street Fighter 2 taught us all, of course, that smashing up someone's car is absolutely awesome. And of course, now probably chaps across the country will agree with you and practice it daily, which is fine. Pie down. Oh yeah, the bins blow up. Also fantastic. So this game is I don't know if diversity is the word, but you know, you can climb ladders. There's a couple of different gameplay mechanics that pop into the mix in the later levels, and the end of each level you fight a boss who is actually a character from the series, which is pretty fascinating in itself. So what I'd like, what I do like about it is, like I say, the music's fantastic. There is variation in the levels, and what else do you need for a side-scrolling beat-em up? I mean, you're not gonna break any new ground with these things, especially considering this game's from 1994. But it really is an enjoyable experience. Big sprites, you know, lively palette of colours. It doesn't look dull, but again, you know, in the 90s games didn't look dull. And then someone invented the Unreal 3 engine, and we all went colourblind. Colourblind, is that right? It's not easy. I suppose you have to be completely colourblind in order to see no colour, which is basically what Unreal 3 engine games are. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I appreciate there's people out there that enjoy playing Gears of War, and I commend them because someone has to do it. So naturally, as with any popular license at the time, they followed it up with a sequel. The sequel had many of the same traits, and most importantly of all, finally, two-player mode, which is absolutely fantastic. Again, brilliant music, wonderfully big, colourful sprites, a variety of levels, and I just really enjoyed it. And this one's got the advantage, if you want to call it that, or just a mechanic that allows you to jump between the front and back planes, kind of like, God, I'm going to forget the name of it now. I think, was it Fatal Fury where you could do that? I believe it was, that SNK one-on-one fighter. But yeah, that's a feature in this game, and as you'll see in this early level, you actually do have to use it from time to time to jump out of the way of oncoming traffic. But I mean, again, it's hard to, looking through the sort of rose-tinted goggles of nostalgia, it's hard to really say, you know, whether or not this is a great game, or I just remember, or just the memories just sort of overwhelm me when I play it. But it seems solid. I have a great time playing it, and I'd imagine a lot of people probably avoid it because you just see the license and you think, crappy kids game. And it really is more than that. It's fantastic. And that goes for the potential of a lot of licensed games. Not so much nowadays because you're talking about strict development cycles and limited budgets, so they end up being junk. But in ye old days, you know, if a publisher had a license and it's not necessarily come out in time for a film, which this probably was, then they actually can give the developer a substantial amount of time to produce a quality game, you know, and the license is just a bonus, which really is what this should be. I mean, a lot of the problem with today's gaming industry is the greed and the short development cycles and blah blah blah, trying to hit certain release windows. But you know, ultimately, regardless of a license, a good game should be a good game. Like, I despise Harry Potter, but if there was a good Harry Potter game and the gameplay was solid, I'd buy it and enjoy it. Which, I mean, goddamn, that's the way it should be. I mean, Tetris, who gives a fuck about spinning blocks? But the game's absolutely incredible. It's just one of those things. I find a lot of people I know really just disregard any game that in essence just doesn't appeal to them, which makes sense, but it doesn't appeal to them because it isn't cool and it doesn't have like an over-the-top level of violence or the latest cutting-edge graphics to sort of teeter it over the edge. And it's unfortunate because there are a lot of good games that just get buried, and the reason they get buried is because of that reputation that licensed games are terrible. Which, you know, 80 maybe 85% of the time is completely valid. But for the other 15%, you've got the range of possibly good, possibly very good, and honestly, like, some games are pretty incredible, like Arkham Asylum is sort of a recent example. Granted, it's, you know, uses the Batman license, but it wasn't, you know, rushed out for a film or anything. But it's proof that it can be done. And then you've got the sort of opposite side of that, like the new Transformers game that just came out. Made by the guys who made War for Cybertron, which, to be honest, I thought was garbage, but it clearly had the foundation of a good game. The engine was there, the gameplay mechanics were there, but the swarming of enemies and constant gunfire kind of really took away from it and dragged it down. But you had hope that maybe the sequel was going to be awesome, but instead they got bundled with a license, put it out within 8 months, and it's worse than the game that came out before it. And that's, of course, the way of things.